and I'm getting ready to get on with my day, and Holy Spirit whispers to me, stay a little longer. Stay a little longer with me. There are moments in life where God visits. There are moments in life where you're not only aware of His omnipresence, meaning He's present at all times, everywhere. But when you sense the moment of visitation, when you sense the manifest presence of God nearby, that you leave the details behind and you capture His manifest presence. You capture and you remove every distraction. You move your schedule aside and you soak in that moment. And you are present in His presence. Don't miss a time of His visitation. You know, there are times where I try to daily spend time with the Lord. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. And I try to do it as a discipline, as a routine. And I find I've got to the point where I find a lot of delight in it, where it's not any more discipline, even though sometimes I have to start there. But when I get there, meaning like sometimes I had a heavy physical day before that, and then next morning when I need to wake up for prayer, it's I'm a bit tired, I'm a bit kind of sluggish. But I start off with discipline. I still get myself up. I go. But when I get there, I find sweetness in God's presence. And there's moments where I pray and I sense the Lord, touches me. He refreshes me. I read the Word. It speaks to me. And then I go on with my daily tasks. But sometimes there are moments where I've done that and I'm getting ready to get on with my day. And Holy Spirit whispers to me, stay a little longer. Stay a little longer with me. And of course, I have a schedule. I have things to take care of. I have meetings. And then you get to this place and you're like, but I gotta go. I gotta do this and this and that. It's not that, and it's that voice is gentle, and it's just, maybe it's just my idea. Maybe it's just my desire. But I've walked with the Lord long enough. I know when He speaks. And there lies a choice. Do I set aside that time and I just kind of push certain things aside, push certain meetings aside, and I stay with Jesus? Or do I go on, do my Martha duties? As a pastor, I got meetings with people. I got planning meetings. I got visits. I got all sorts of things that I got to do. Outside of that, I have a business. Outside of that, I have a family, children. I have my responsibilities. And what I find is that in those moments, Jesus is passing by your village, passing by your house. And will you be the one in that moment to welcome Him in? And I find that if I slow myself down and I say, you know what, I've kind of been running hard last week, last few days, last couple weeks. I need to go beyond my regular routine, and I need to welcome His manifest presence in. And when I do that, when I just linger a little longer, when I stay in His presence while I welcome Him in, I go from being Martha to being Mary. I choose greater things. And I don't get caught up in small details, like Jesus said in an NLT translation. And I get refreshed. My worries, my fears, they fade to the background or fade away completely. And it seems like me lingering longer, I miss out on certain tasks that I need to do. I miss out on certain details. But almost always I find that when I set the time aside, especially when He's nearby, I sense His visitation, I sense His beckoning, His drawing, I respond to it, that those details seem to take care of themselves on their own. They seem to get worked out. Certain struggles, certain relationships that were tense seem to get good. Certain details that I was worried about seem to fall in its place on its own, or God gives me an idea when I get out of the prayer, the time with God, how to do it properly, how to do it wiser, how to do it quicker. And what I thought was going to take extra time, take my time away from my prayers, going to take away from certain things, it actually saves me time, saves me energy. And I find that those details get taken care of even faster. Are you with me? You see what I'm saying? Sometimes it's during a service for me as a pastor. We have a regular service, meaning, and again, another weekly service. And there is just tangible presence, unusual presence that comes into the service. And I sense the Lord is near, the Lord is here. And as a pastor, I'm battling these two things. Okay, we got a program, we got a prayer that's scheduled after the worship. We got testimony scheduled. We got to do an offering, and then I have to preach, and then we still have to have ministry time together. But you sense God is wanting you to draw in deeper. He wants to take the church deeper. And I battle, do I go on with the schedule, or do I invite Jesus in deeper, closer, not just by, but in? Not just passing by us and we sense His presence, but to come in, to have an intimate time with the Lord. And I wish to say that every single time I responded as a pastor correctly, but instead of being Martha, becoming Mary in that moment. But there were times where I settled for being Martha. I settled for keeping a schedule, and I regretted it. But every time that I've chosen to be Mary, and I said, wow, that's such a sweet presence right now in this, I can see the church is being engulfed in God's presence. And I choose and I say, you know what? I don't care about a schedule. I don't care if I get to preach today or not. What I care about is, do people touch God? Do people experience God intimately? Do people open their heart and let Him dine in, as it says in the book of Revelation? I stand at the door and I knock. Who will open to let me in to dine with them? And so I want to be a steward of God's presence, not just have Him pass by, but come in. Don't miss a moment of visitation. I remember one time I was at the conference where I was ministering, and after I was done ministering, there was a group of pastors and leaders, and they say our plan was that we're gonna go hang out and eat good food and hang out together with pastors. But after the service, I felt that the Lord was drawing me to go spend time with Him. And usually that's what I do. After services, I go and spend time with pastors, leaders that invited me, have good food, have great fellowship. It's amazing. But I felt like Holy Spirit wanted me at that point, and I came and I excused myself with pastors. I said, I need to, God is calling me in. It was uncomfortable a bit, but I wanted to go. I wanted to go with them, but I felt the Spirit of God was calling me to spend time with Him. And so I excused myself, and I asked for them to excuse me, and that I went into my hotel room and I just had an amazing time with God. The most amazing part, not only I got refreshed, because sometimes these travels, they drain me. Not only I got refreshed, but next morning when we went into the service and I was ministering, the tangible presence of God was just absolutely unreal. The things the Holy Spirit was doing was absolutely unreal. And the impact that was left was much greater than usual impact that I would leave when I visit. So don't miss a moment of visitation. When God draws you, respond to Him.